Yes, yes. So, hi everyone. My name is Jimmy, and I come back from a core data security background ever since 2008. And I'm leading the data security sales for Zscaler across India and SAARC region. Along with me is my solution architect who has wonderful experience. Once upon a time, he used to be my customer, and now he's my colleague and a solid partner in delivering a lot of data security messaging and solution across India. That's Rohit Gambhir. Comes back with solid experience. Rohit, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for this nice introduction. So yeah, team, hi. I'm Rohit. I work as solution architect for Zscaler Data Security, and as Jimmy mentioned, so my day-to-day profile requires a lot of customer interactions, dealing with different industries, trying to understand their use cases and helping them in improving their data security posture. So that's what I do day in day out. And today we are here in front of you, speaking on a very specific topic, an interesting topic rather. So. Yeah, Jimmy.
Great. So,
Yeah.
Rohit, today, I mean,
Mhm.
SaaS adoption happened pretty quickly and in a very large way for the past 6, 7 years. And
Mhm.
what coming back from a core threat background, I see that a lot of security issues goes around with SaaS. And this is the least part what our industry is thinking about it at the moment, which is a very big risk. So let's quickly discuss, provide information, how Zscaler solved that particular problem. Because as far as I know, which based on the Forrester, we are the only leaders in SaaS security, right? We top the chart and no one is even close to us. And what do we do so much that, which customer can utilize and secure their SaaS
Yeah,
application?
yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
So yeah, Jimmy, I think you made a very interesting point. Like, see, SaaS is something, see, which is very easy to deploy, easy to implement, right? But of course, the most difficult to manage. Because a lot of things happen in the background which may not have a naked eye to it, and that's how we land into something which is more to do with misconfigurations, which is more to do with accidental data exposures, and a lot of things happen. So yeah, I think this is what we are going to primarily talk about in today's webinar. And feel free to interrupt me, Jimmy. Keep on adding your wisdom, right? Because you have been an expert in this domain. So as and when I transition to any slide, let me know in case you want to add something or something. Okay. So with this, let me try to share my screen and we'll get it going. So, okay, let me share my screen. Jimmy, just let me know if the content or this presentation is visible to you.
Yes, it is
Yeah.
now.
Okay, great. So we are good to start. Maybe Vikasji, a confirmation from you or
Yeah, we're good to start, I
good to
believe.
Yeah,
start?
please go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay. So yeah, so once again, I would like to welcome everyone who is on the call to spare some time out of their schedule and giving us an opportunity to talk something about on this topic, which we feel is very important from a threat perspective, which is important from a data security perspective, right? So we have an interesting agenda for this session. We'll start with a glimpse of what's happening around the world from SaaS security and why every organization is now focusing on improving their SaaS posture, which was not the case earlier. Then we'll also touch upon what's Zscaler's approach here to secure the entire SaaS ecosystem. What differentiates a traditional SSPM from what we call it as a modern day SSPM solution or a unified SaaS security solution? And how can we help you in building a resilient SaaS security framework? So that's what we are going to touch upon in today's session. I'm assuming we'll have some time to get some Q&As from you guys, and probably in case time permits, I would like to showcase some of the things from the console itself, which will add more meaning to this conversation or to this session.
So, Rohit,
Yeah.
there are questions popping in now as well.
Mhm.
So, what we'll do, everyone, is we are noting down the questions, and at the end of the session, we will answer the question which are there on the chat. And then, of course, if someone
Yeah.
want to ask verbal question directly coming on the call, that'll be great.
Okay. All right. So see, to begin with, see, it's important to understand a bit about the Zscaler's unified data security platform. And the reason is because SSPM for us is not a standalone component, but rather SSPM is something which is embedded deep inside into the platform, and it cuts across posture, it cuts across identity, it cuts across data. So it is no more only misconfiguration kind of a dashboard, which highlights very static kind of an information. Gone are those days when those individual or the static dashboards were relevant. But right now, what we have observed that to get a full-fledged SaaS security coverage, it has to be a combination of posture combined with identity combined with your data rest. And in fact, the current threat landscape itself is such that most of the enterprises are now focusing on security of their SaaS applications for a very simple reason that almost the 70 to 80% of their day-to-day applications are now cloud-based, right? So I'll just take a minute to talk at a very high level on this slide so that we get the context right, and then you will come to know why SSPM is just a small part of this whole big story. So we build this whole platform to secure all sort of data, wherever the data is, with one single unified approach. The data can be on SaaS, it can be on premise, it can be on endpoint. So we cover all sort of channels. So the thought is to give you a comprehensive coverage across all data loss channels wherever you need. You can start with one and then you can keep on adding other as and when the need arises. Understanding our platform is really super easy. So it's basically a bottom-up approach. So what we start is with classification, which we believe is the foundation of data security. Simply put in words, you can't protect what you can't see. That's how classifying your data becomes the first step towards your data security journey. And when it comes to classification, so we combine all those cutting edge AI-driven classification clubbed with the traditional methods. I'll not touch upon this topic for today. Then as we move up on the left, what you're seeing is the out-of-band controls, where all this posture management story fits in. So here we use a combination of DSPM plus SSPM, or what we call it as a unified SaaS security. This is a kind of a proactive data security. Basically, the thought is that you go and find out the risks which are across posture, across access, fix the compliance, and do some sort of proactive remediations. Opposite, on the right-hand side, you see a defensive data security stack, the combination of CASB, DLP. So here you prevent all sort of channels with a lot of options. You can monitor, you can coach, you can block, or depending upon the way you want to run your data security show. And all this nicely stitched into a unified dashboard, which becomes your one-stop shop for all sort of visibility, all sort of policy creation. And this single dashboard gives you a hell lot of visibility and correlation across different channels, across different tools and technologies. So that becomes a one-stop shop. And lastly, on top, what we have is a workflow automation layer, which is nothing but a single pane of glass for all sort of data security related incidents which you may encounter in your enterprise. But today the focus will be solely on SSPM, which is highlighted in yellow. Now this includes various components. It has got a glimpse of posture management. It talks about access governance. It's also touch upon a part of the compliance management. And in fact, the reason to focus more on this specific component and why I have highlighted is because see, if you see the recent couple of security incidents which have happened across the globe. Let me change the slide and show you some of these incidents. So the first one, which I'm sure that most of you are well aware about. So this is on this 𝐒𝐚𝐴𝐻 incident. Not even a data breach, I would say, but it's kind of an accidental leakage of information which happened at Anthropic's end. So what exactly is 𝐒𝐚𝐴𝐻? I don't need to get into the details, but at a high level, yes, considered as one of the most powerful models in regards to finding cyber security related vulnerabilities. If used by attackers, can launch hell number of zero-day attacks, which don't have any existence as of now and are difficult to control. So very lethal in that sense. So what exactly happened here? Now this leak or this accidental data breach, it happened because of a small configuration or small misconfiguration in the content management system of Anthropic. They acknowledge it as a human error, but because of this small misconfiguration, it actually exposed close to 3,000 internal documents So which actually described what this model is all about. And that's how the whole world is now aware how lethal this mythos is going to be as and when it is released. Right. So to categorize it, now a small change or a small configuration left unattended led to this kind of an incident. Moving ahead, if I take another example, so in December 25, there was a malware campaign ran by a threat actor named as Shady Panda. I'm not sure it is the exact name or it's a nickname given by the research firms, but that infected close to 4.3 million users of Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge. What exactly happened here? Basically, it played around with browser extensions. It actually weaponized those extensions, which operated as legitimate utilities. Now, these extensions were something operating as in the form of wallpapers, operating in the form of productivity tools, reminders, and all that stuff. And these were later turned into a very, very powerful spyware, and these were used to implement or execute remote code execution attacks also. So here, uh, what they play around they played around with a widespread misconception that something is, if something it is verified, if something is widely used, it looks safe, then it must be trustworthy. That's how they were able to exploit the loopholes within browsers. And in fact, to call it out, many of these browser extensions, they earned high install count, they had positive reviews, and they even had verified status inside the official extension stores of Microsoft as well as Chrome. But over the 7 years, what these guys did, they started with affiliate fraud, then they moved on to search hijacking, then they went on to RCE backdoors, and then finally it was active spywares which were installed onto these many systems. So that's the level of exfiltration what can happen by exploiting something in the form of an explicit trust, which we generally get by looking at an application. The same goes true for us also when we try to install an app from a Google App Store or from Apple's ecosystem by looking at, hey, this application has got so many thousand and lakhs of ratings, so it looks safe. Let me download it, right? So this is another category of attacks which can be exploited using your browsers. The third, also very, very interesting one, and I'm sure that most of you are aware about it, which happened in November 2025, connected with Salesforce leakage of data for close to 200 of their clients. What exactly happened? There is a third-party company for Salesforce, which is Gainsight. Some of you know that, maybe knowing that Gainsight is a SaaS company. It operates in a B2B domain responsible for customer data analytics and all that stuff. So now Salesforce had some of the applications of Gainsight. The exact application name is, I believe, Sales Loft Drift or something. So now that application was connected using OAuth credentials within Salesforce. Attackers found a way to exploit the Gainsight application. They were able to steal those OAuth tokens, and hence they were able to log in into Salesforce. Point to be noted, there was no vulnerability in the Salesforce platform itself, but rather the compromised connections between the Gainsight application and the Salesforce led to this kind of a data breach. So the message which is, which is out there in open is that, see, even if there are no vulnerabilities in your organization, attackers may still find a way to get into your environment by using these third-party apps as a backdoor. And hence the importance of supply chain security is taking a lot of prominence in today's era. So to club it, or if I summarize whatever incidents I've just spoken about, so the whole inference is that the modern enterprises run on SaaS, right? Collaboration platforms like SharePoint, CRM systems like Salesforce, HR tools like Workday, and all finance apps, whatever we are using, are now purely based out of cloud. While it is convenient, but equally it is leading to a lot of complexity. Complexity in terms of controlling these applications from the back, finding it out what these applications are connecting to in their background. Is there any fourth party involved? Is there any fifth party involved? And each of these SaaS app, and we all agree that these introduces unique, in fact, these comes with their own unique configurations. They require n number of unique permissions, integration risk, and these are, in fact, these apps are also managed by different teams within our organization, right? A finance app is generally owned by a finance guy, right? A collaboration app is considered as a baby of the collaboration team, right? So now with this, what exactly happens is, if an app is misconfigured, it can expose your sensitive data. If an app is overprivileged or there are dormant accounts, it can increase your attack surface. If the integration itself, what you guys have done with your third party or with your fourth party is itself is risky. For example, this OAuth connected app, which led to the Salesforce data breach, it can introduce unknown vulnerabilities into your environment. And on top of it, the lack of visibility, it makes it even more hard to track the user and the data activity. So what we believe that there are four core tenets which you should always look so as to secure your entire SaaS ecosystem. The first one is your data posture tenant. Now this data posture domain is anyways controlled by tools like CASB, like DLP. So when it is data, these are some of the tools and technologies what I've just mentioned, which are responsible for maintaining your data posture. On the right, the risky misconfigurations. Now this is something, an area which was primarily owned by the SSPM breed of tools. Then towards the bottom, the SaaS application sprawl. Now this is coming up in a very predominant way in most of our discussions because now we are talking about is supply chain attacks which are happening day in day out. And at the end, there is something to protect your identity posture as well. So far, this domain is something managed by identity and UABA domains. So what we did, we took best of all these of the world and try to put it into a simplified, easy to manage solution, what we termed it as a unified SaaS security. So it is not a plain or a classic SSPM, but it is much, much beyond it. It cuts across data, it cuts across your identities, it cuts across misconfigurations, and what we have done is something which I'll be able to show you in the coming slides. To introduce the platform, so SSPM, as we all know, SaaS Security Posture Management. So initially, it began as a way to identify the configuration issues. In fact, at a high level, you have to summarize. It is nothing but it is all about securing the management plane for a SaaS application, because data plane is anyways governed by DLP or CASB or other technologies. Now it was all about managing the management plane. But we know that the SaaS landscape has evolved to a large extent. And now so have the tools who are supposed to protect, they are evolving to keep up the pace. So modern SSPM platforms, be it our platform or it can be any other platform. So what they attempt to deliver is they try to deliver you a continuous, a contextual and automated protection, which is actually the need of the hour. They try to bridge the gap between the posture, between the identity and the data. And that's how where Zscaler's unified SaaS security platform comes into play. And it spans across all 5 pillars of enterprise SaaS security. What are these pillars? What we do exactly in each of these pillars, I will try to explain in the coming slides. But let me explain each of these terminologies in the context of unified SaaS security or in the parlance of SSPM. So starting with discovery, what we do here is we try to control that application sprawl. We scan all your SaaS and third-party applications which are connected to your identity and give you a complete visibility. That's what we try to do with the discovery part of it. Similarly, coming to posture, now here we try to understand the SaaS security posture like misconfigurations. Classic examples can be whether MFA is enabled for users, whether encryption keys are getting rotated, whether strong password policy has been set, or whether the setting which allows users to share files externally on OneDrive is enabled or disabled. So all these things are covered as part of the misconfigurations, or these are called as misconfigurations and covered as part of your posture management. Then coming to third-party access, so here we try to reduce the third-party access to your data, such as so there could be some add-ons or browser extensions which may try to access your corporate data without your permissions, or which you may not be aware. So we try to uncover that, try to show what all permissions these third-party apps have. Can they read your files? Can they read your data? Can they share your data externally? So basically the riskiness level of these applications. And not only this, but how you can remediate such findings so as to reduce your attack surface. That's something what we do as part of this whole third-party access story. And coming to identity, so here we try to understand the user identity as well as the access. Now, what does that mean? So we will try to insights into like which users have installed these third-party apps, which we have discovered as part of the stage 3 or the third-party access. What permissions have been granted to that user? Is that user risky? What kind of access the user has got? So we are shifting gears from an app to now a user level view. And then the last is the compliance. So we ensure compliance by seamlessly mapping to popular frameworks. So each and every posture control, what we show you in the form of our dashboard is mapped to an industry benchmark and global compliances. You will find HIPAA, GDPR, PCI DSS, etc. So there are close to 17 or 18 compliances what we support, and we have mapped our posture controls. So if a posture control is failing, so you can see which compliance it has violated. So this is covered as part of the compliance or the fifth pillar of our portfolio. Now going into detail of each and every pillar, starting with the first one, which is all about discovering and classifying your SaaS applications. Here we try to solve three main problem areas. So we try to give you the visibility, we try to govern the usage, and we help you in the remediation. Now, what exactly this means? From a visibility perspective, we help you in maintaining an up-to-date inventory of all connected third-party applications and their risk. That's what we do as part of visibility. When we say governing the usage, so we classify apps into risky apps, into dormant apps, into overprivileged or potentially harmful applications. We help you in monitoring the drift. And in fact, the terms what I'm using, you will be able to see on the screen itself. So right at the top, you can see the active apps at the top, followed by risky applications. Are these applications apps used by some users? So yes, you will see 15 such users. How many apps have been deactivated in your ecosystem? Apps by classification, apps by finding type. And then we also tell you who all are the users who are using this application. So that this is what we cover as part of the governance of these apps. In fact, we can also tell you that if a app is malicious, or let's say there is any broken redirect URL that any of these third-party apps may have access to. So we go up to that level. And then from a remediation perspective, so we give you a remediation heat map, which helps you to prioritize at which app you should look first. And then you can take an action based on the risk score, the usage, and the severity. To give you a very quick example, so the remediation map, what you are seeing on my screen, so it is basically a combination of risk score versus usage. Now, the number 80, what does it represent? It represents it's a app which has got a high risk score, but in terms of the usage, this application was last used over a period of 60 days. So that's been it's a not an active app. Now this gives me an idea that hey, this specific app or these 80 apps can be considered as low hanging fruits for me, which I can go ahead and try to deactivate it by getting the context from the users. Hey, are we really requiring it or not, or shall I go ahead and remove these applications integration? So this is how we try to help you from a discovery and classification perspective. So remediation map will keep on changing depending upon the pillars we are into, and accordingly you will be able to see different views. That's the pillar number one. Talking about the next pillar, which is all about managing this as app posture. So here, what you will be getting, so you get, in fact, what you get, so what I'll explain what all we cover. So we cover close to 40 plus enterprise integrations. Now there were a few questions coming in the chat that you guys are using either Okta or Azure AD or O365, Google Suite, Salesforce, SAP. So all those enterprise grade applications which were there in the chat, all are supported to a very large extent. So we support close to 40 such applications for which we show posture controls. Okay. Now there's a difference between showing a posture control and then scanning your third-party app and telling what all problems which could arise by using that application. Those are two different things. What I'm talking about is we are talking about identities. We are talking about something like as Slack. We are talking about something like SAP. We are talking about something like a Salesforce. So this is what is also being shown at the top of the screen. You see Atlassian, you see O365 logo, you see Slack, you see Chrome, you see GitHub. So all these enterprise grade integrations are well supported. And for these 40 applications, we have close to 600 plus posture checks. So posture checks vary basis the platform selected. Depending upon whatever you will select, you will see a varied level of posture controls. That is one part. And In addition to this, what value we get here is, so if you look at this image, I mean, if I take the very first example, it says enable MFA for all users, right? Now this is a control or a posture control connected with my O365, right? So it will show you which tenant this control is applicable to. It will also show you the status of that control. You can see what is the severity level. Is it high, is it medium, or is it low, depending upon the risk it brings to your organization. Is it currently a failed control? We will also give you a list on what all assets it has failed, what all compliance benchmarks or compliance frameworks it cut across. We will give you a clear indication of those frameworks also. And then we give you a flexible option that you can enable or disable this control. The reason to give you this option is because see, the compliance standards vary across industry. For a BFSI client, the compliance framework will be, I mean, PCI, if I take an example, that will be very much relevant as compared to a healthcare client. For him, HIPAA will be more prevalent, right? So we give an option to our customers that they can disable or enable these controls depending upon the applicability, depending upon the nature of industry. So to sum up, so we support extensive integrations. We give you in-depth visibility into users, into the data, into the applications. And then from a compliance perspective, as I mentioned, that we also do an automatic mapping of all popular regulation and frameworks to ensure compliance levels are in place for our organization. That's what we do as part of the pillar number 2. Now, going to pillar number 3, which is very, very interesting and spans across the supply chain related security. So here, the first thing what we try to give you, so we give you a complete shadow IT apps visibility. So we will help you in discovering what all risky apps and integrations are available in your environment. So even on the screen, what you can say something like a block site or something like a magical. You will also see, if I try to show it from my console, you will see a chat GPT add-on or something like a Grammarly add-on. So all those things are shown as part of the third pillar. And we have a very, very comprehensive catalog. So we cover close to 50,000 plus SaaS services. We cover close to 100,000 third-party add-ons, and we cover close to 150,000 browser extensions. I hope I have mentioned the numbers correctly. Yes. So it's 50K for SaaS, 100K for third-party add-ons, 150K for browser extensions, and plus in-depth attributes which come from our own research and API sandboxing. And in fact, the list keeps on increasing. So this is the current number what I just mentioned. And in addition, we continuously monitor and analyze these applications and the add-ons to basically uncover vulnerable, dormant, or over-privileged integrations. So we can also tell you that what is the risk score of this application from a risk perspective. Can we take certain actions, like can we mark it for review, or can we mark it for user justification? Hey, why did you install it? Can we ask a business justification from a manager or from someone who is going to approve it? So we can do all that stuff. And in addition to this, we will also help you with the remediation part as well, because that's equally very important. One is we are highlighting something that, hey, this is risky. But then the next question comes to you. How do you ensure that it is remediated, the risk is eliminated? So for that also, we will give you the required recommendation, the required steps, the required URLs to look into, and the required controls to implement. It's part of pillar number 3. And moving to the next pillar, which talks about users or securing your identities. So here we talk about the risky users in terms of we help you in detecting users who have access to sensitive data, or those users who are installing unapproved apps. Now, why we are able to get this visibility of sensitive data? Because you remember initially I talked about this whole platform story. Now, since it is a single platform, everything talks to each other. The correlation from one component moves into other. So we have the visibility on the data aspect as well. So I can tell you that, hey, this user using this risky app has done so many DLP violations for so and so application. So we stitch the entire stuff together into a single story and present to you in the form of a meaningful dashboard. That's what we do from a risky user detection perspective. And then we help you in controlling these users basis the role of the user, what you will see, what you are in fact seeing on my screen. So there are some users who are classified as admins, right? and versus the severity impact these users may have on your organization. So now the metrics will change on this pillar. So you will have risky users on one side, and then the severity what they bring into your organization on the other side. So depending upon that, you can take a call. We will give you visibility what activities a user is doing and what are the access anomalies related to that user. That's what we try to uncover as part of pillar number 4. And the last pillar, it's all about continuous monitoring, ensuring your compliance. So we monitor and in fact correct the SaaS security posture to ensure the consistent regulatory compliance is maintained in your organization. We automatically do mapping of the frameworks. In fact, I have spoken about it. So this is what a glimpse of that, which is there on the screen. You can see these names as NIST or SOC 2, GDPR. So we have all these popular frameworks into the system. And we will also tell you how many points are applicable to each platform which you have integrated and how many have passed, how many have failed. So that's what we do. And from an audit perspective, so we always maintain a real-time visibility into the compliance gap with an end objective is to reduce your risk and ensure that the adherence to compliance remains continuous. So these are primarily the broad 5 pillars. And in addition to this, the 5 points what I just mentioned, right now what you are seeing on the screen is something which we have recently added to our portfolio because we thought that this is something which is going to be a game changer for our customers, and this is going to further strengthen their SaaS security compliance. Starting with the browser extension visibility, so we will tell you what all browser extensions are available in your environment, how many have been installed by a user, if there any such browser extension is there on the endpoint. So we cover all as part of the first feature, which is browser extension visibility. Then the next feature what we brought in is the user file access. So wherein we do a correlation between the DLP incidents of a user vis-a-vis the access he has. So we try to bring a correlation map here so as to give you a better control over it. And third, we also understand that see, recommending a control is very easy, but it takes a lot of pain for an organization to actually go ahead and implement such control. So we have something called as an implementation complexity, which helps you to prioritize and remediate your risks, which may arise out of your SaaS environment. We will have a look at on each of these features in detail in the coming section. So let me start with the first feature, which is all about the browser extension visibility. Now this is how the screen looks like, and I'll try if I can show all these things in a real setup kind of an environment rather than showing you an image, because all these things are fully functional, operational, and have been appreciated across a couple of clients who have started using it. So as part of this browser extension feature, what we do is, along with covering your third-party applications, we support visibility into browser extension. So how we do it? So we automatically parse the Chrome profiles. We detect all sort of installed extensions which a user would have installed, and we try to capture the associated user and the permission data. Now this gives us 3 clear benefits. The first benefit, what we get is a comprehensive visibility. So we come to know that what all extensions are there across the user browsers, and not just only those which are available only in your Chrome web store, because a user can go ahead and install a browser from can install an extension from a third party store also, right? So we get a dual visibility here. So you can very well understand that what all extensions are unauthorized, how many extensions are risky, all that stuff is covered. And then we give you a user mapping. We tell you what all users have got those extensions installed. And then the third, as part of permission insights, we also try to understand the level of access granted to each extension for your better risk evaluation. So again, a 360 evaluation of an application or an extension, I would say in this context, who has published it, on which platform it is available, what is the origin, what is it coming from a marketplace, is it coming from a dark web, is it how many users using it, the risk score, the findings observed on that third party plugin or an extension. And then of course you can put your own notes, you can start classifying it into sanctioned, unsanctioned, business requirement, or whatever. So a lot of combinations are possible as part of this browser extension visibility. Then the other feature which I was talking about is correlating the user file access. So here you can see we are also able to correlate the DLP incident violation of a user vis-a-vis the access what that user has got onto certain applications. That is how we are able to give you this correlation feature. So again, uh, since we are a platform and we have a visibility across different parameters, we are able to give you this view. So the holistic risk view is nothing but all about a unified visibility into your SaaS application risk, along with the file access, along with misconfiguration and the third party exposure, everything combined in a single screen. So let's say there is a user, I think here user name is Mark. Yeah, so let's say there is a user Mark. He has access to so many sensitive documents in Google Drive, and hence we call that user, or we classify that user as a risky user. Similarly, we can also provide you a view for all sort of applications or the extensions, for example, Grammarly, Calendarly, what this guy has installed. And because these apps have a very broad access to your emails, to your documents, to your meeting calendars, and if these apps get compromised, so is your data. And that's how the importance of correlation, and it was a necessity for us to bring in this kind of a feature wherein we can correlate the data with the riskiness of an app, and that's how where we are. So the whole idea is to give you a comprehensive view of your SaaS security. And from a breach risk reduction, what we do is, so we identify and try to contain high risk users and the sensitive file access so as to limit the blast radius. And from a compliance, we try to strengthen the compliance posture by also mentioning what all compliance these users are failing from a configuration perspective. So these three things club together as part of the correlation aspect. And the last feature which I mentioned, it was about implementing the complexity matrix or implementation complexity chart. So what you see here, let's take a very simple example. So this chart has severity versus effort. Now, if you see the number written as 79, so this is something, it's all about a failed control remediation. Now, this is a high risk control which has failed, but the effort required to close this or the effort required to make it compliant is low. So the number 79 again becomes my low hanging fruit so as to improve my security posture. Right. So that's how in this feature we try to help you in a different way. We tell you that, sir, an observation or an recommendation what we are trying to make here, it's easy to implement, but it has a high impact as compared to something which may take a lot of time for you to implement. For example, let's take something like implementing MFA. So implementing MFA is easy. So we may call it as a low effort activity for you, but the severity will be high. In contrast to something, if we ask you to change some permissions within Salesforce. Now we know that changing permissions within an application like Salesforce will require n number of internal approvals. While it is risky, but the effort required will be too high. So you can wait for a while till the time you cover your low and medium ones. So basically, the idea is to help you out in improving your posture and not waiting for something to happen and then you are taking a reactive action. That's the whole intent. That's what we try to cover as part of the implementation complexity part. So again, three things. So identify risk. So this we help you in discovering finding based on impact and remediation. Then we will highlight issues with high impact and low effort, which I just mentioned. And third, we will also give you a complete guidance to your security and application teams for efficient resolution. That's what we aim to achieve using this feature. So before I move on to the next topic, I would like to take a pause for a minute and just see if I can just show you all these things real quick in the console. Probably allow me a minute. If let me see if it is logged in and I can show you something. Uh, yeah, I think I am logged in. Yeah, so this is how the actual console looks like. So whatever I've just mentioned about in last couple of minutes, and okay, think I clicked on a back button. Let me allow me a minute to get it back to action. My bad. Yeah. So let us start with this app dashboard. So the moment we log into to the unified SaaS security dashboard or the SSPM dashboard, what you get is a consolidated view at the platform level. So you see all those integrations which are in place. So we have integrated with Atlassian, Chrome extensions. Google is there as a identity in our environment. Microsoft is there, Okta is there, Salesforce is there. So all are there, and it gives you a consolidated view. Now it is up to your team, or up to the audience, that they want to see a consolidated view, or they would like to simply see something which is very specific to Microsoft. Then the view will change accordingly. But as a default one, we give you a complete information of what all integrations are available in your environment. So reading this, or using this console is super easy, very, very simple. So we'll give you a complete overview at the top itself, that there are 41 apps. Just as an example, there are seven were found risky, two affected user. These much are deactivated apps in your environment. Then you can also filter your apps basis the finding type, like potentially harmful, dormant, or overprivileged ones. Then I've spoken about the remediation metrics. So here you see the risk score versus the usage. You can see the top apps here. Users will also prompt. I think this should come up in a while. And then there are top findings by severity. So a very high level view, because this is a landing page. And then you can go towards the left hand side, wherein all these options are available to you, or this is nothing but a representation of the five pillars what I have just spoken about. So if I go to the apps, it will show you what all apps are available in your environment. Have these been installed? Have these been not installed? I mean, if these are removed, then probably it says not installed. If these are installed, it will say that the status is installed. So we can take a very quick example. Let me see this easy file converter. Now it says the risk score is 9.4. It is installed on our Chrome platform. This is the publisher. It came from a third party. Let me click and try to get some context around it. So what it tells is that Easy File Converter has access to Chrome, and it has got a broad data access. If I click here, it will also show me why this is highlighted as a risky app. So this is an app with a low number of downloads. This is an app with a high severity vulnerability. The platform from which it was downloaded is an unverified platform. We don't have any information that whether it came from a legitimate source or not. So basis these, we are populating the findings here. We will also tell you a small a chart wherein it tells us the interaction of this app with your ecosystem. And if I go to the access, it will tell you what all it can access onto your system. So here it shows that it has access to your Chrome browser. And if I click here, it will also tell me, okay, it is giving me an explanation. It tells you that this extension gives access to Chrome.downloads API. So now you know that what access this application has got. Is it really required, not required? Shall I remove this app overall from my environment or so? So this is how you can do with all these information which comes handy to you. And similarly, from an activity perspective, is something I mean, from a user perspective, you see this guy represented as 307433, basically the employee ID. So he has marked this application from unset. I mean, initially that's a status. He has set that status to review state. So we also capture if someone is trying to play around with the configuration settings of this add-on or this app what we are trying to show. So all sort of user activities also captured so as to give you a complete audit log. Can take another example which should be I think known for all, a chat gpt for Google. But you see, this is chat gpt but published by a different vendor. This is not coming from OpenAI or something. If I click here, the system will show me the relevant information about it. So here you see, this is the application. Now this application has system access. This also has application access to my host, which can be a cause of concern to my security team. Hey, why you require access to the endpoint? If I click on access, it will tell you what all permissions it is trying to connect. So here, from a browser perspective, it has access to your cookies, it has access to your Chrome storage. And if I see the host angle, then probably it tries to utilize my host and access these many URLs. Again, a risky app, potentially a cause of alert for an admin to take an action. Again, from user perspective, if my admin is even trying to change any of these settings, trying to make it sanctioned from an unsanctioned, try to play around with these controls, we try to capture that. So you can say the status changed from sanctioned to unsanctioned, and this is the user who has done it on 7th of Feb. Similarly, on 31st of March, say status was again changed from unsanctioned to unclassified. So all sort of activities are captured as part of the audit. So that's what we do as part of this app inventory or the third-party app inventory. Then coming to the user pillar, so here you will see a totally different view. So you will see all these users. I can take a user here. Let's say the user is James, and a risky user flagged by the user. Why risky? Because there are a lot of findings which are pending against this user. So he has failed against all these controls, and that's how Zscaler SSPM has flagged this user as a risky user. So we give you proper reasoning behind it the moment we classify or tag a user as a risky user. Similarly, there is a data aspect associated in case there are any DLP incident associated. You can also see those incidents right here in the screen. That's the user aspect. And then importantly, we have something on the compliance. So I've spoken about the various frameworks what we covered. So this is how that view comes up. So you can filter it by frameworks. So the system can tell you that, hey, out of whatever platforms you have integrated, there are total of 1649 applicable controls, and out of those 699 have passed. I can go down and do a deep dive by framework. For example, if I select framework, it will give you a view basis the framework. So you see all frameworks are coming. So we support all known frameworks. And I can drill down. It will tell you that, hey, related to PCI DSS, on Google, there were six controls which failed, and on Microsoft there were 62 controls which failed. Okta, there were seven controls which failed. So this number two or number one represents the amount of integration what we have done. So we have integrated two Microsoft tenants. That's why this number is shown as a two. Similarly, for Google, there have been two different workspace integrations. That's how this is a count. So there is a difference between this number and this number. So this the last one represents the failed controls. I can go ahead and tweak the view altogether. So I can have a view basis the platforms. So now I can see on my Google platform how many controls were applicable, how many passed, how many failed, and this is the detail about all these details, all these controls. Uh, why a security control has passed, you can click on the security checks. Why it has failed, you can click on this control, and it will give you a complete detail about it. That's on the compliance part of it. And the last topic which I wanted to show you is the posture view. So now you will see a different view basis the integrations what you guys have done. Probably I can filter it, let's say by tenant. I may select here as something to do with my O365, because I remember majority of the users in this webinar are using O365 to a larger extent. So now you see the list of controls have been populated which are solely applicable to O365. So the system will categorically marked how many have failed, how many passed, the compliance levels, the complexity levels. And to give you one detailed example, probably let me filter it by, let's put it this way, FCFPF records, because this is very prominent in O365. Let's see. Okay, so we have a control by this name. It says ensure that SPF records are published for all exchange domains. Now let's say I don't have much information that what this control is all about. So I just need to click here and a different view opens up. It will tell me a very detailed information that, hey, why this control first of all matters to you. What is the threat level? I mean, what is the threat it can bring into your organization? What can be the impact? And we also map this control to your MITRE attack framework. Again, very important from a risk perspective. We tell you that it corresponds to this particular tactic and this particular technique. How do you remediate it? We also mentioned the steps involved. If you want a detailed documentation, you need to click on this one and it will open the Microsoft link. So that's on the remediation. Then what all compliance frameworks it hits or cuts across. So these are the name of those frameworks which are applicable for this specific control. Then I can also show you something on the audit log. So let's say this control was earlier passed and now it has failed. We capture that information also. So you see in September 2025, when we initially scanned it, it passed our scanning. So we do a continuous scanning. So when that scan was done, it was passed. Back in back in 2026 January, when we scanned it, the control status was showing pending, and then on 30th of January it failed. So we capture all these audit logs, so you get a complete trail that what were the changes done earlier which has caused this control to pass or to fail or to go into a different state. So all this is covered as part of the posture control. Now with this, let me switch back to the presentation and try to
Hey,
summarize.
Rohit, we are running out of time, so maybe one more minute, right?
Yeah, sure, sure,
Great,
sure.
great.
So this is the last slide probably. Thanks Vikas for pointing it out. So this is something which I wanted to bring it to the audience. That see, this is how a modern SSPM solution should look like. What I have categorized as a next gen solution, and this is how the audience should be able to differentiate between what is now termed as legacy and what is next gen. So most importantly, these are the five broad parameters which helps us in the differentiation. The legacy ones, therein we used to run periodic scans, but now the need of the hour is to show a continuous and real-time monitoring. Then legacy ones, very specific to configuration, but now we are bringing the user data, integrations, compliance all together into one place. Similarly, for the context. So initially we used to get only isolated issues, but now we are talking about risk correlation. Initially, the prior versions of all SSPM tools, those were all point solutions, but now we have seen that the modern era of SSPM and tool is all about the unification. And the last is anyways, it's self-understood. So there has to be a lot of AI-driven insights and anomaly detection, which is actually appreciated by the people, and this is really appreciated by the security teams. So yeah, so Vikasji, with this, I would like to hand over the control to you,